On today's show, what did Kyrie Irving show in his Dallas Mavericks debut at home? He explodes in the fourth quarter. It's not enough. Why? We'll talk about that and more on today's Locked On Mavs.
I'm Luka Doncic, and this is Locked On Mavericks.
Mavericks, NBA champions. Bang! It's good, and the Mavericks have won the game.
If you don't believe, you shouldn't be here.
The whole team never fades away.
And welcome. You are locked on to the Dallas Mavericks. My name is Nick Angstadt, media member and NBA channel manager for the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks for making Locked On Mavs your first listen each and every day. Being part of the show, we are free and available on all podcast platforms, including YouTube. But the best way you can help us grow the show is to listen every day and every post game and to comment anything below. Let us know. What did you think about Kyrie and his Dallas Mavericks debut? If you were there, let us know. And then also, would you get married at halftime of a Dallas Mavericks game?
Oh my God.
That happened for real. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook, official sportsbook of Locked On. Make every moment more. Visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn today to get started. And joining me, as always, my co-host, writer, and contributor at Mavs.com. The Kai Kid, the One More Thing King. What you got for me, Isaac Harris?
Is it bad that I'm like not super mad right now?
I think everyone needs to take a breath. Can we just all take a breath together? Like, let's take a collective.
I thought that was a lot of fun. Like, I know that a loss is a loss and we need all the wins right now. But my gosh, that was a lot of fun. Like, I had a blast in that fourth quarter, and it just, I don't know why I watched that game with the idea of just the bigger picture of holy crap. Like, welcome to Dallas, Kyrie Irving. Like, we have another star, another all-star starter in Dallas right now. So he's so dang good at basketball. It was a lot of fun to watch. Obviously hate the ending. We'll talk all about it, but welcome to Dallas, Kyrie Irving.
Can't believe how complacent you are. Just so satisfied with not winning every single game.
Somebody did comment on our show the other day. It's like, why are y'all so happy after a loss?
Isn't the goal 82-0, Isaac? Can we just ask for a win? Like, just one win. We're at 0-2 with Luka and Kyrie. Really? You're happy with the loss? Moral victories? That's what you want to be? Yeah, we'll talk about all that. We'll talk about why it's great to have two stars. Right? Like, I think that's the first takeaway. And the second takeaway is the couple of things the Mavericks are going to have to work through. It's tough to try and work through a star and try and figure out how to integrate them into all this and figure out how to play the style that Luka wants to play, the style Kyrie wants to play and is good at playing and all that. So we'll talk about that. We'll hit on a couple of the things from the introductory presser tomorrow. We have a show every single day. And then we may talk about Justin Holiday today. Probably will do it tomorrow, though. He got signed, and then the Mavericks are apparently interested in LaMarcus Aldridge, so we'll talk about that. We'll talk about that.
That guy just walked back from 24-hour fitness.
Do we know he's walking? Do we know he had the ability to walk? Minnesota Timberwolves built up a 26-point lead in the third quarter. It kind of was like, Minnesota's game. They had like a 5-point lead, then a 10, then back to 5, then 1, then 10. Like, it was kind of just going back and forth. Minnesota felt like they were in control most of the game. And then they built up that 26-point lead in the third quarter. And it just felt like they were getting anything they wanted, right? They were getting anything going to the rim. And the first quarter, I think they scored 30? They scored like 30. Dang it. They scored like, I showed everybody all my notes.
30.
He scored like 30.
30 what?
Points. Here, I got it. Okay, they scored 30. You did a great job covering for me as I was stammering, trying to find my notes. They scored 33 points in the first quarter, 24 points in the paint.
They scored 33 points in the first quarter.
Thank you. Appreciate that. So 6 free throw points and 3 points on 1 made 3. That was the first quarter. Like, think about the percentage of shots and like baskets that were in the paint in that first quarter. Like, the percentage is so high of points that they made. It just felt like they could get anything, and the Mavs perimeter defense and the paint defense was just lacking so hard that Jason Kidd just pulled all of it and just went super small late. We'll talk about that, but they went down so hard. And then Kyrie Irving with a small ball lineup came back and got it to within what? It ended up being like 2 at one point.
Yeah, I mean, it was kind of weird because, they went, in the beginning of this game, like you said, they had all those points in the paint, and it felt like, in the first quarter, we talk about rebounding and stuff on here, but, they had 12 rebounds scored. Dallas is 5. They got some second chance points in that first quarter. They were just out hustling Dallas. I mean, even Jason Kidd said post game, he's like, we were still, we're basically still on that road trip. Like, that's how they played, is like they were still on the road trip. And, they just got out hustled on the board. Everything. I mean, they had no answer for Rudy Gobert. It was a weird Rudy game because, Rudy has some good stats from this game, was plus 17,
21 points, 14 boards.
But then he got played off the floor, and it was like, I mean, he played in the fourth, but then he got played off the floor, and with Dallas going small, and I mean, even Kidd talked about that post game, and he got played off the floor with Theo Pinson playing the 5. So, but no, I mean, that was I have so many thoughts early. I'm just fascinated by this Kyrie Luka pairing.
Yes.
And I promise this is not just because of he went off in the fourth quarter. I promise. I was saying this in the first half, like, we got to get Kyrie more involved. And well, I mean, like, they got to get him, the ball, like, more of letting him. There are too many possessions, I thought, in the first half. And this is just them, like, working out the kinks of it. And even into the third quarter, that Kyrie's just in the corner and just, like, not touching the ball, or, like, it was kicking to Kyrie and he was, getting a set shot, which he's an incredible shooter. But I want to see a little bit more of, especially of, like, Luka, a little bit shorter of a leash of if Luka doesn't have it a little bit, or it's like a couple possessions where Lucas is getting some tough shots, like, all right, let's let Kyrie. That's the stuff, the give and take that I think they'll figure out eventually.
Yeah, there's a difference between Kyrie trying to promote ball movement and trying to be I think in the first couple of games here, we've seen him try to be like a low maintenance star. I know that's a weird thing to say about Kyrie, but like low maintenance star on the court, right? And I don't need the ball all the time. We even heard this quote from him. I'm trying to tell guys like, hey, I don't need the ball all the time. You don't have to play with me the way that you guys have played with Luka, because he was the only star, and that's all that this team had, it felt like. And so then you get the possessions, like Isaac said, where he's standing in the corner and he's not getting the ball, and that happened even in the last game too. But then he goes off, and when he gets aggressive, he can just score at will. 26 points in the fourth quarter. Just, there's no world without Kyrie on this team with Luka they're anywhere close in this game. There's no world. No. You just don't come back in a game like that where it's Reggie, Kyrie, Theo, Frank, and then like Josh Green, and they just make this huge run to come back in the fourth quarter, and Luka comes back and joins that group. But the things that we saw him do to get that, it wasn't just like bombing from 3. He hit 3 out of his 4 threes. He went to the free throw line one time in an and one. He got 2 offensive rebounds and got putbacks in those moments. He was 11 out of...
Yeah, that one in the fourth where I'm like, how did he even get that rebound?
With when like Theo came in, he like Kyrie takes the shot, he misses the shot. It's like the one shot he missed in the fourth quarter, he misses it. Theo Pinson gets the ball somehow loses it, and then Kyrie gets the putback right there. And you're like, how is he the one that gets there? And honestly, he gets there because Rudy Gobert got played off the floor. But you see now, like, yes, they lost this game. The defense is going to be a disaster. We'll talk about Jason Kidd's quote after the game that was tongue in cheek a little, but he kind of believed it's like 50-50 true. Hey, I mean,
that's the luxury of having those centers.
I don't always tell you guys the truth.
I mean, we know he doesn't tell us the truth, but he had a comment about defense we'll talk about. But this is what having 2 stars is. They're going to win games they shouldn't win. 20-point lead in the NBA is nothing. And so you can just come back in a run like this. And having 2 stars, this is what it does. And I think that Nico Harrison had a really interesting answer to the question that I asked. I was thinking about it all day. I'm like, what am I going to ask? You kind of get one question in these introductory press conferences, and it happened before the game where he got introduced to the Dallas media. I was like, all right, you really only get one question. I said, what would you say to fans and people that say that this trade is a really big risk? And Nico Harrison's answer was, among other things, I think it's a bigger risk to not do it. And you see why in a game like this, right? Where they were down, they had nothing going for them, and then Kyrie just comes back. Like, usually this game would be like, oh, Luka's got nothing. Why don't you just sit him in the fourth quarter? People would say that in a game like this, right? Before this trade. And now with this trade, Kyrie brings him all the way back. And I saw a couple tweets. reveal yourself. I saw a couple tweets of people say, should Luka stay on the bench?
All right,
exposed. Coming up, let's talk about the tempo difference between Luka and Kyrie. I think that's really interesting, and we saw it play out in this game. We'll talk about what that means and who has to adjust more. We'll talk about that coming up. But before we do, let me tell you about FanDuel. FanDuel Sportsbook has you covered with a no-sweat first bet up to $1,000 that you can get back. That's bonus bets. If your first bet doesn't win, you'll get back up to $1,000. Go download this FanDuel app. Safe, secure, super easy to use. Super Bowl is over. Let's check out some NBA. Conference winners. To win the Western Conference, Phoenix plus 240, Denver plus 290, Clippers plus 500, Mavericks plus 700, Memphis plus 750. Mavericks over the Grizzlies is interesting. Warriors plus 900, and then Pelicans plus 3,000 with the Zion news now that he's going to miss some more time. That one's interesting. And then the Minnesota Timberwolves plus 12,000. Wow, that's super high. You can check out that and more on FanDuel. Go see all the kind of fun stuff that they have. Again, it's Locked On, or it's FanDuel.com/Locked On for no sweat first bet. FanDuel.com/Locked On. All right, Isaac Harris, thanks for making Locked On Mavs your first listen each and every day and every post game. We'll have a post game all the way up and through the playoffs till the Mavericks are eliminated or win the championship, and then we'll continue 5 days a week all throughout the offseason too with free agency and the draft and all that. We appreciate each and every one of you that jumped on this train after Kyrie was traded. It was our number one audio week, our number one video week, our number one video day, our number one audio day of all time, which is insane because we've had some really big moments on this podcast. And
I feel like I had more people tonight at the game, from people within the organization to random fans. I was like, man, love listening. I see your face every day.
Yeah.
And so shout out.
Yeah, one of the producers of Bally Sports is like TV coverage was like, I listen to your show every day. Like quoted something that I said, and I was like, oh my gosh, it's crazy to hear at times. But we appreciate all of you guys that have jumped on, and you're part of the Raccoon Squad now. If you listen every day, that's the only requirement. Just listen every day. All right, let's talk about the tempo, because I thought that was one of the interesting things that we're seeing now between these two, and I was talking to some people in the media section I was in, and they're like, Kyrie wants to play fast, Luka wants to play slow. How are they going to meld these together?
You're going to ask me that question.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. No, I'm dumping it off to you. Handing it off. I'm Lamar Jackson. You're whoever the Ravens running back is today. And there it is.
Might be whoever the Ravens quarterback is pretty soon. But it is a difference, right? It is a stark difference. It is, even looking at, it's hard to talk about this without people taking it as like a negative toward Luka. But there's just more ball movement, right? Like, I mean, you've seen, I was joking with Bobby in the press box because he had a tweet before the game about, the Mavericks, number of passes before, the trade, and after the trade. And I joked with him up there. I was like, hey, guy, give it a few games and then give me the stat on the passes there. Just because Luka handles the ball so much, Luka likes seeking out those mismatches, the post ups and all that stuff. And it's like, hey, let me go to work. Now, I'm not like trying to take a shot at Luka. It's just two different styles, right? Like that's the style that Luka likes to play. He likes the slow, methodical, let me be the quarterback that picks you apart. And that's why he's a top 5 player in the game and an MVP candidate. Kyrie's more of like, let's get this ball and run. Like, let's get the ball movement. Let me pass and cut. Watch Kyrie move off the ball. When he passes, he's moving. And he's, constantly cutting to the basket, finding the opening lane. Let me hit this guy, picking his spots when he's going to take the shot. And it's just a different type of style of basketball. And I do want to see them. I want to see how that, if I had to like pick one and say, hey, can the other one catch up to this? I think it's more fun, and I feel like this is fun to say too. I think it's more fun to watch the fast-paced ball movement. It felt like you almost watched like the Warriors out there, like those days of like pass, cut. And, there was, just some times of like, that's the thing of like, I want to see how Luka can adjust to that and pick up the pace some. And, even like complaining to the officials a little bit. There was a time where he was still complaining about a call before, and Kyrie went in and scored, got fouled, was going to the free throw line, and he's still just going and talking, both the refs. So I know that's kind of unfair to point that out right now, but I think that's a little bit of, all right, like what style, maybe if Kyrie's off the floor, you go back to the Luka's kind of style. I don't know.
I don't think it's unfair. I don't think it's unfair to point that out because Luka's still a young player. He's still got room to grow. He's not a perfect player, right? There's things he has to work on. And one of the things is to not complain and to not get back on the other end and give up points, right? Like in that play, Kyrie scored. And so the ends maybe justify the means on that one. But like he's still, that's something that he can get better at and to not like give up on plays because he's frustrated with officials. And we've seen this team take their cues from him and be frustrated with officials and then allow themselves to be taken out of games because he's, still arguing with the refs and complaining to officials. And like, he has a right to complain a lot of times, right? Like he doesn't get foul calls. You see the difference between like De'Aaron Fox's whistle the other night and Luka's whistle. And you wonder like, man, could Luka average like 40 points a game if he got the same whistle that De'Aaron Fox got the other night? But Luka makes up for it because this has been the play for the Mavericks since Luka got drafted or since they gave the keys to him halfway through his rookie year. The most efficient thing that they can do is to put the ball in Luka's hands and everybody get the hell out of there, right? Like that's still the case. We even saw it tonight. There's going to be plays like that because that's still one of the most efficient things in basketball. They just also have to balance it with this new style that new. It's ball movement. It's like motion offense. It's like not new stuff, not new concepts, but this newer style that Kyrie can bring where it gets everybody involved and it, promotes more passes. Like you said, before this trade, 265 passes a game. Since the trade, 332 passes a game. Like just adding Kyrie, right? This
first in the league in that, I think.
Well, it's been like 2 games, so that number would be first in the league. But 300 something passes is something that the Warriors have talked about before, like you mentioned. And so they have to change, and some of it's speed, right? Luka's not fast enough to kind of play some of the up-tempo stuff that Kyrie wants to play. So how are they going to use him? I think using him as the rebounder and outlet guy is a really great way, and we kind of saw that tonight. He had 12 boards tonight, and you can see that like that kind of work. You just have to have guys, outlet and run out on the breaks, and I think Luka will be able to hit those guys ahead. We saw Luka as a trailer a couple times tonight, and he's got to be willing to take that three. And I thought we saw him pass it up a couple times in this game.
Yeah, I'm not worried about them playing together. I think they're an excellent pairing. We've been very vocal about them, their pairing and all of that. And even the end of the game, like it was a bummer. And yes, wish would have got the shot up, and it was a crazy comeback. But I'm just like, dang, that sucks. But it's learning curve. Like they're going to learn each other, and they'll. I'm confident they'll figure out. They're both basketball geniuses.
We saw 2 games in a row now. The last play was the complete opposite, right? of the one before. We saw the overtime game against the Kings where Luka takes a contested 3 instead of kicking it to Kyrie for an extra pass. And then this one, we saw the literal embodiment of that rec league video. Have you ever seen that video of the guys in rec league like pass to each other, and then the guy's about to get a layup, and he passes over quick because the caption's like, when you and your boy are both have 9 assists, and you're trying to get the 10th assist, and you're like passing it back and forth like hot potato. So it felt like that. And we saw 2 completely different plays. They'll meet in the middle. They'll meet in the middle at some point, and they'll figure it out. They've had 1 practice.
Yeah.
Right? They've had 1 practice in games. Like, it's hard to figure things out in games. It's hard for Josh Green to foul Mike Conley on that very last play when the whole bench is yelling, don't foul, don't foul. Like, it's hard to try and even hear that, like, very clear direction that has been being said from your bench because the crowd was so into it because that fourth quarter was so electric from Kyrie, just the things he was doing to get them back in this game. So it'll take a little bit of time. The offense was still great when they were on the floor. What did they still finish like 120 something offensive rating as a team. Like the offense is still really good. Or they finished with 128.7 as a team, which is they average 116 points per 100 possessions. So offense was still really great. They did some really great things. Their defense was just awful, and they're going to have to outscore teams with this lineup the way that it is.
Coming up next, I need you to give me the Jason Kidd quote post game about the defense.
We'll talk about Kidd's quote next. But before we do, let me tell you about LinkedIn. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates for your Business. If you're a small business or hiring manager, you know that success in 2023 all depends on the team members you surround yourself with. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. Go check it out and identify the most qualified candidates on LinkedIn Jobs and connect them fast and, listen to this, hold on, for free. Free. LinkedIn Jobs makes it easy to screen and rate applicants based on your job qualifications all in one platform. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNBA. Again, that's linkedin.com/LockedOnNBA to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. All right, Isaac Harris, let's talk about this Dallas Mavericks loss, 124-121. And Jason Kidd had a really interesting quote after the game that I've been trying for a little while to figure out Jason Kidd's whole thing, his whole vibe in these post games, and trying to figure out, all right, are you trying to be serious? Are you trying to be funny? He goes for the dry humor like a lot. Like he tries to throw in like jokes. He's like that, and then he has to say that's a joke because nobody in the room like caught it or gets it. And I've been trying to figure out, and like this is the best that I've figured out.
I don't always tell you guys the truth.
That's true. But he was asked about the Mavs defense tonight, which was terrible and is terrible, and he just kind of punted on it and decided I'm going to go with all the wings that can dribble, and we're just going to throw them all out there and see what happens and try to get Rudy Gobert off the court. This was what he said when asked about the defense, and how they're going to approach defense. No, we're here to outscore people. People come to see the points, not 80-80. We're here to score. This is the new NBA. Interior defense, we'll figure it out. Isaac Harris, what's he mean by that?
I think so. I think some of it's him being sarcastic a little bit.
I don't always tell you guys the truth.
I think it's also a sense of honesty in the sense of like there's no way to really improve this roster. I'm sorry, but Justin Holiday's not making this top defensive team.
They could have had Stanley Johnson, Isaac. I'm just kidding. I don't know if that's true. They could still have him, I guess. They could
Aldridge could be the anchor.
LMFAO.
What's Salam Ezri up to? What's Salam Ezri up to right now? But no, I mean, I think a little bit of it's just honesty of like, hey, this is like what the team we have.
Yeah.
And we're not going to be a great defensive team. Like, we're not going to be a top 5 defensive team. So the way we're going to beat people is scoring a ton of points. And he knows that's the recipe to winning. So, yeah, I mean, I think it's sarcastic, but a little truthful too. Yeah. But there you go.
I think he was sarcastic, but I also think there's some truth to it. Like you said, I think that he looks at this team, he's like, all right, we lost Dorian and Maxi's out. So like our 2 best defenders on the team are gone for now. Maxi will come back, and JaVale McGee didn't pan out the way that they thought. Frank Ntilikina hasn't been really good on offense, even though he made a 3. So like he's throwing.
Jason Kidd did not forget about Frank tonight because
people forget about Frank.
Yeah, because that's another thing too. It's like because of the roster, it's like all right. Besides Reggie and Josh, well, who else is going to throw out there? And it's like some people are. Because I texted you as joking, I was like, all right, I guess Theo is the Dorian replacement. And because, in that scenario, Dorian would be the small ball 5 in this scenario. They wanted to go small tonight. They wanted to make this run to come back. And in a way, it kind of worked because Theo had a pretty good plus minus in this game. The small ball, played Gobert off the floor.
It worked. It got them back, but I think anybody could have been on that floor, and Kyrie does that, and he cut 26 points on his own. Like, just takes the ball up and listen. These are the Kyrie plays at the end of this game. Like, 4 minutes left. Kyrie pull up 3. Kyrie pull up 3. Kyrie drive. Theo offensive rebound. Kyrie put back. Luka step back. Kyrie kicks to Frank for 3. Luka fouled. He's just going off in this game. Kyrie pull up 3 at 8 minutes. Kyrie push and then attacks, and then Kyrie gets the putback at 9 minutes. Like, just fourth quarter, it was just him going off. And I know we have talked about Christian Wood so much. Christian Wood had a really good scoring game in this one. Yeah. 24 points in just 22 minutes, 8 of 8 from the free throw line, hit a couple of threes, had a couple of assists, a couple of offensive rebounds. And like, I get trying to play Gobert off the floor. It worked to go small. But can't you do the same thing with Christian Wood and just get somebody else to be a threat to roll, to go out for three, more so than Theo Pinson? Like that's the question I have. If Jason Kidd puts Christian Wood back on the court, does Chris Finch, the Timberwolves coach, automatically say, Rudy, come on, let's go, get you back in there? But wouldn't they be able to run the same stuff?
No, it's a great question.
That's my question after this game, because there's many other ways they lost, but that one to me is very confusing.
Yeah, because it's wild. Because I'm sitting there in the fourth, and I said this multiple times in the fourth quarter. Theo and Frank's still in.
Yeah,
this is wild. Like, how are they still in this basketball game? Like, they've not even been playing. But at the same time, like, they were making this run, and like, I know it was Kyrie going off, but you also can't say that everybody's complete trash out there whenever they played Rudy off the floor, and they outscored the Timberwolves 39-24 that quarter. So like there was something there about them going small. They liked going small whenever Dorian was here. So it's like, I mean, and it's not just Kyrie playing offense either, because every other quarter that they played tonight, Timberwolves had over 30 points, 33, 32, 35. Well, in the fourth, they scored 24 points. So
yeah,
the defense picked up and stuff too in that fourth quarter. So I guess that would be the Wood. I don't have the answer to that, because I
don't think there is one, besides like that there's something going on with Christian Wood and this team that we've talked about all year, right? That we said like that there's something with with Christian Wood and Kidd. And my big question for this roster, I even tweeted out today after the Justin Holiday news, is how much does Jason Kidd trust Christian Wood? That's been a huge question throughout this whole season, and it's proven time and time again that he just
know the answer by now.
I mean, it's been proven time and time again. He just doesn't. Right?
If Christian Wood can't close a game over Theo Pinson, he definitely ain't closing a game over Maxey.
We love Theo. We love Theo so much. He's a friend of the pod. Been on the show many times, but he's not bringing it defensively. You joke that he's the new Dorian replacement. Like, he does not play defense like Dorian. The Mavs have Dorian.
No. He's not. Yes, I'm not saying that.
You joked. Yeah,
I joked that Kidd is viewing him that way as the small ball five now. He did have a nasty block tonight that Dallas challenged, and it was close to being clean.
I know. It kind of got him in the head.
He got him in the head with his body. But anyway,
what a weird sentence.
That lineup was just fascinating that they left it in there for so long. Obviously, Kyrie was in there. Luka was out. It was just this like super extra small ball. I mean, Theo played point some at UNC, and he was like the five out there. Like, this is like,
but he was also bringing the ball up the court.
It was a weird lineup. Obviously, Luka comes in, he hits a couple shots, and them trying to figure things out then. But the big rotation, I just couldn't help to laugh because I was watching the fourth. I'm like, Theo's out there as a five. JaVale's on the bench. Christian Wood's on the bench. Dwight's on the bench.
Maxey is in street clothes on the bench.
And so yeah, there was some rotation stuff tonight that I was like,
and I've seen some complaints about how they not figured out these rotations yet. It's been 2 games with Luka back.
Yeah, and Kidd said after they got Kyrie, he wants to spend the rest of the regular season figuring out the best combinations and stuff with Kyrie. And obviously he's not going to try to do it at the cost of wins, but
did he tonight? I mean, I kind of wonder if he did tonight with not playing Christian Wood there, because Christian Wood was scoring. Now, Christian Wood scored a lot of his points with Gobert off the court. So if the Mavs play Gobert off the court, then they put him back in, and then the Wolves put Gobert back in. Does it negate the advantage you get with Christian Wood? I'm not sure about that. And
it just feels like my only pushback, which I know y'all are gonna say I'm a hater or whatever. The only pushback to the Christian Wood versus Theo thing in the fourth quarter is it feels like Kidd just liked Pinson. They didn't have an offensive problem in the fourth quarter, and that's what Christian Wood brings. So it just feels like it was a defensive thing of, hey, we'd rather have Theo's defense out there than Christian Woods. I don't know how else to explain it.
I can't take that statement seriously.
How else do you explain? I don't know.
I think he liked the ball movement, and I think there's 2 things that he liked. I think he liked the ball movement and like the ball handling that Theo Pinson can have, and then I think he liked the speed. Right? Like I think they wanted to play fast.
That's a key part of it too.
Because Theo's faster than Christian Wood, and that's defensive rotations. And for all the scoring Christian Wood did, he missed a bunch of rotations today where you just look at it and you go, he's lost. Like he's just lost defensively.
Luka did too, though. Like Luka,
for sure.
Luka got smoked on defense a lot tonight.
Everybody sucked on defense in this game, like almost everybody. But
Kyrie was their best defender tonight.
he was their best on Ant.
Yeah.
He was their best option on Anthony Edwards, who was killing until the fourth quarter.
Yeah. Naz Reid's their best center.
And they owe $80 million to their other two.
Dude, I like Naz Reid so much.
He's going to be gone. They can't pay him. You can't pay like $18-20 million to a guy when you're already paying $80 million to two other centers.
Signing trade for Tim.
I'm so down. That'd be great. I don't think he answers their defensive issues either, though. Because Naz Reid's out there in the fourth quarter and they scored 39 points on him. Oh, I'm gonna do it this time. One more thing.
No, I got one more thing after this.
Can we talk about how your nemesis destroyed them in the fourth quarter?
Them or Luka?
He just your nemesis, Kyle Anderson, had 10 points in the fourth quarter and just felt like every bucket was just a Mavs run stopper. Like every single one was just like, if they could have gotten one more stop, it just would have been that much better of a run.
I'm sorry, guys. You can blame that on me. We have a history going back for a while. I made a joke about him on Twitter many years ago when he played for the Spurs. He clapped back, and it was a fun moment. He ended up deleting his tweet, by the way.
I was walking out of the arena tonight, and I was walking like in stride with him, like at the same time, and we made really weird eye contact, like 2 or 3.
Were you going really slow?
He did
like almost slow mo.
He did walk really slow. I don't know if I would say it's slow mo, but he was walking really slow.
Can we take just a minute and a half here?
You got to say it.
One more thing.
Yeah,
we got to talk about the wedding. So they had a wedding at halftime, and Reed, my man, if you listen to this podcast, then
he has to.
Thank you. You need to turn it off right now.
No, you're gonna go in on him.
Do you have praise?
Oh, I loved it.
What?
It's absolutely okay. So
how did those first initial conversations happen between the families?
For anyone that wasn't there tonight, there was legitimately a trellis and like a wedding party and like a podium all set up.
Grandparents
all set up at an orchestra that played the national anthem and like family members all set up at half court right during halftime. Everyone's gone. The lights go down. Wedding. And all of a sudden, Mark Followell, friend of the pod, goes down there, stands at the podium, and then the bride walks in and the orchestra is playing like the wedding music. And all of a sudden I'm like, is this real? Is this the halftime show? They're actually having a wedding? And like legitimately, Followell may be ordained or I don't know how he got it. He went to some website or Isaac trained him in the arts of weddings.
He can. And I can do weddings too if y'all want me to marry.
That'd be amazing. If we had 2 listeners that want to get married and you do the ceremony.
I can do the ceremony. Let me know, guys, if you need somebody.
That'd be amazing. And so they get married right at half court at the game. I tweeted out the video of Followell. By the way, ESPN reached out to me and asked if they could use that video, and I thought that was the funniest thing.
It's your claim to fame, is it?
I videoed the guy getting it, but you're down on it.
Yeah, I'm down on it. What are we talking about? How did that first initial conversation go with the families of, hey, listen, I got this cool idea. What if we got married at halftime? And the in-laws are like, so is there any other ideas? What are we thinking? Everything looks so awkward. They needed Sean Heath to explain to the arena what was happening before. There's no explanation.
There's none. So it just started.
The trellis, everything coming out, and then they had a first dance. I was like,
and they did it all in
awkward.
So there's 15 minutes of halftime. Like they literally put the clock up on the shot clock and say there's 15 minutes of halftime, and they were done with like 6 minutes to go. Like they did all of that. First dance, the ceremony. Follow had like a couple of words. They exchanged some vows.
Couple of words, and that was another thing. All the words and everything was all these like basketball Mavs puns. Even Sean Heath was like doing starting lineups for the bride coming out from Arkansas.
Starting like, at what? Bride. I'm for it.
Of course you are.
It's 100% insane. But here's my thing. You have a real wedding and then you do that. right? And then you're like, okay, let's just do something nuts because you can only get married once. I saw this. So I lived in Florida for 3 years and I had season passes to Disney, and my wife and I would go like every weekend, and we would see brides and grooms there all the time. Like everywhere. It was like bride and groom, like literally in the dress. We would see people, not all the time within the dress, but like all the time we'd see bride and groom. And they had like done a wedding somewhere else, and then they had done like their own kind of destination type wedding at Disney. And I that's fun. Like you only get to do that once in your, hopefully you only get to do that like once in your life to marry somebody. And so like, I don't know, that's a fun story. And it was crazy. There was 20,000 people at their wedding. Now, half of them are going to go get nachos, but there was 20,000 people at their wedding.
They got a message from JaVale giving them $7,000 for their honeymoon.
That doesn't cover a honeymoon anymore, does it?
I mean, if they want to go to like, I don't know, Waco, and
they also showed people or are Chip and Joanna part of that?
Joe, baby. They also show now. Cool thing was they actually got engaged at halftime or at a game previously. They showed the footage on the
had
screen.
To have some kind of connection there.
Our guy Reed hadn't cut his hair since then because he looked like Nick Cage from Con Air, and so anyway, it was an awkward experience. They exchanged rings, and there's 2 rings on the floor, and that was the most rings that's been on that floor for a long time.
Wow. So, wow. Oh, that shot we did not need. I did not need that shot leaving this. I feel bad enough about this game tonight. There you go. Let us know what you think in the comment section below. Would you have a wedding at half court at a Mavs game? Let us know in the comment section. Guys, thanks so much for listening to Locked On Mavs.
Peace out.
Boom.